What's up, duelists? Before I get into today's video, I want to talk about a tournament that happened in Uppsala, Sweden. This scene is super poppin' up there. Edison format is super poppin'. They had a 24-person tournament. They sent me a really cool comprehensive report, top 4 deck lists. They told me, some cool stuff about the region and what the players were playing for, and I think it's super tight, so I want to feature it a little bit in this video. I might do more of these like local tournament feature things in the future if you guys like this. If you guys like seeing what people are winning with in different regions of the world, then make sure and let me know in the comments below. And if you guys don't like this thing, well, get fucked. I'm doing it anyway. Okay, so this is what they were playing for. This is, that's a fat prize pool right there. There was about 24 players playing. That you saw the metagame breakdown a little bit. Almost 40% of the place is playing Diva Heroes or Diva Zombies, which is pretty cool. Diva X, very large representation. Playing for a fat prize pool. Lots of turbo packs, tournament packs, sealed product. Very high stakes. Fourth place is Joji, or third and fourth place is Joji, and he was playing this. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, by the way. I'm not the best at that kind of stuff. But he's playing this Frog Monarch deck list, and this list is his heat. Look at this, triple main deck Vanity's Fiend. He said in the recap that he swears by this card. He says it's very powerful. He's also got, Treacherous Trap Hole, double spot removal spell, very powerful trap. Upstart Goblin to make sure you start with your Substitute Swap Frogs, whatnot. And then in the sideboard, he's actually got 15 monsters, which is super based. He's got triple hamster, triple Raikou. I love that, actually. That's super cool. It's something I've never thought to do in Frog Monarchs, is just have triple hamster, triple Raikou on the side, and it definitely worked out for him. Allowed him to get top 4 at this tournament. At third place, there was this Diva Hero Beat deck, which is actually super sweet. I'm not sure how I feel about Upstart Goblin, but he said in the deck review that he uses it to draw into Miracle Fusion, and if you're drawn into your Miracle Fusions, then you can't really complain too much. It's basically Diva Hero, but instead of like Caius and Evil Guy, you've actually got more of this Alias Gemini Spark package, which is kind of interesting. I don't think that that's that bad, actually. It's a little bit more low to the ground. Double Gilman, so even if you draw one, you can still make a level 5 right out the gate. I actually think this list is quite solid. I'm a big fan of it. In the sideboard, he's actually sideboarding the Impressions and a huge stun package, as well as triple Sirocco for the Blackwing matchup. I wonder if we'll see more triple Sirocco sideboards moving forward after this video, just to deal with stuff like Blackwings. This deck is very sweet. It's got a lot of very innovative stuff going on. I like it a lot. I actually really like it. I think this is a unique approach to both Hero Beat and Diva Hero, and I think it shores up a lot of the problems that those two decks have. One of the issues with Diva Hero is that sometimes you can be so weak to oppression. This shores this up by having Alias plus Gemini Spark as additional removal, plus as an additional beater you can summon under Royal Oppression. The Hero Beat deck, I think one of the biggest weaknesses is that it's just very threat light. It doesn't have a lot of waters. He's added at least 5 new waters here, as well as Sangan to find them. So I think it shores up both of the problems of those decks, while also not being in a weird space where you're like playing Hero Beat and you want to main Oppression, but you can't because it conflicts with your Miracle Fusions, etc. I think this is a very solid deck list. Congratulations to, oh fuck, what was his name? I had it. I had the names in my head. I think it was Jacob, yes. Congratulations to Jacob. Here we go. And then second place is, of course, Kevin with his Blackwing Vayu hybrid deck. This deck is cash money. This is very reminiscent of the list that won RBET. He's got a main deck 7 tools for the tech. His sideboard's got triple DD Crow, double Cyber Dragon, double Light Mirror, and double Deck Dev for Fairies, of course. Pulling the rug, which probably helped him against Monarchs at some point in this tournament, and just a lot of cash money stuff going on. The main deck Gores is something I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of the main deck Gores in this, especially with triple Greffer. You can always convert off of it, just burst it into play if you need to, basically. Very solid list, very tight list, very powerful duelist. And then, of course, the first place list, which I want to show off today, is Diva Zombies, played by, I believe his name is Mickey. I couldn't hear very well in the video, but I believe his name is Mickey. And this list is sweet, too. He's got a main deck Necrogardna, which is a cool card in this deck. You can pitch it with Zombie Master, which is kind of cool, and just give yourself a way to protect your Bryonic. I've always thought Necrogardna and Bryonic is one of the most forbidden combinations in this format, and this deck is taking advantage of that. He's also got a main deck Royal Oppression as a way to just chase people. Maybe you set up a Revive King. Revive King plus Oppression sounds kind of terrifying. No cap. A lot of other cool stuff in this deck list. Just the 2 Divas, triple Pyramid Turtle to make sure you have a consistent start into your Goblin Zombie. only one tomato, electing to go for triple turtle instead so you can get access to ill blood. And then the sideboard, you've got 2 Zombie World. He's got this really cool configuration, the 1 Kaiku, double Sidra, double Crow. I've been using this a lot in a lot of my sideboards. He's also got the double Dust, double Pulling, double Deprison. He has all the best cards in the format in his sideboard, plus these 2 Zombie Worlds to help him out. I like this a lot. I think this is a really cool deck. I think all these decks are very unique in their own way, and I think it's cool that they sent me this. So shout out to Sweden, shout out to the scene. If you guys want to play with them, contact Keoni on Discord. His username is KHIONI. I think they have like a play group out there. And if you guys have a local tournament and you want to put together a report and send it to me, I'm more than welcome to open it up in a video, open up a video with it and talk a little bit about it. So that's going to be the intro to today's video. That's going to be intro to today's video. Now the actual video today I want to talk about is Blackwings. I was playing Blackwings today in testing. I want to make sure that Blackwings can still hang in today's metagame. It's one of my top 5 picks for the tournament coming up. I have basically 5 picks. I'm sort of weeding through, and this is the list I played. After playing this list a little bit, I am not super happy with it, and there are some things some changes I would like to make to this list, but I'm going to show you the 5 replays I have for you first before I go ahead and tell you about the changes I would make in hindsight after playing them. The first match I play is against TheMacroShow. Oh my goodness. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. You guys are going to get a little bit of spoilers. Let's fast forward through this bit. So TheMacroShow, he's playing his signature Goblin Zombie Mystic Tomato combo deck. It's like a zombie plant power tool dragon combo deck. Our opening hand is excellent. We have, of course, Armageddon Knight to set things up for our 2 Blizzies. Armageddon Knight's going to send Bora the Spear because I'd rather draw Shura with Whirlwind in hand. And I'm going to set the Rhoda at this point to try and bluff a back row just because Armageddon Knight's a little bit weak and I just want to make it seem like my position is not that weak. Also, Rhoda, not that useful. If this can trade with a Typhoon, I'm pretty happy about it. Both my normal summons are kind of occupied by these Blizzards over the next 2 turns. So Rhoda finding Grepher is not that useful for me, whereas bluffing defense is a little bit more effective. He finds Allure of Darkness, and here he makes an interesting move. He has 4 options to banish to this Allure of Darkness. Knowing the configuration of his deck, knowing that he plays Mark of the Rose, Brain Control, that kind of thing, I actually would have banished the Goblin Zombie out of this hand. He elects to banish the Night End Sorcerer, but because his play is going to be Lonefire into Mystic Tomato this turn, he's going to, have access to his engine with the Goblin Zombie. Whereas I think holding a tuner and having access to a payoff play if you top deck Mark of the Rose after your Lonefires get them live is, I think, a little bit higher upside than holding the Goblin Zombie here. He goes ahead and banishes the Night End Sorcerer. He only does a single Lonefire into Mystic Tomato. There's a couple reasons for him to do this. One of the reasons that he does this is because he main decks Gigaplant, so top decking the Lonefire is actually not that bad. However, I probably would have gone double Lonefire just because he has Pot of Avarice in his hand. Double Lonefire Tomato is already 3 materials, and the monster you get off Tomato is the 4th. That means all you need is 1 more card in the graveyard for a live Pot of Avarice, and then you can sort of start to churn through your deck. Terrible diction today, terrible enunciation, but here we are. We're out here making a video anyway. Sangan attacks directly. I take 1,000, and unfortunately we are going to get a nice little -1 played on us that turn. However, we're going to pick that -1 up with the Black Whirlwind and the Blizzy. We're going to go ahead and do this and that. Bring out the Bora the Spear, grab the value. And I have a few options. I could get super aggressive. I could make a Synchro. I could bounce the Sangan. I could play a certain way. But I think all of that is a little bit too presumptuous. Also, because Mark of the Rose is live, and I know that decks like these generally play Mark of the Rose, even though I know the TheMacroShow deck for the most part, I think decks like these generally play Mark of the Rose, so it's a safe assumption. I don't actually go for a Synchro play here. I just Blizzard attack over the Sangan. I don't want to risk losing my Synchro to a Mark of the Rose. In any case, I just leave the Bora in play, additional pressure, kind of protect me from that. And sometimes these decks also play Creature Swap. That's another reason I'm leaving the Bora in play and not making a 6-star Synchro. He summons Goblin Zombie here. Instead of going for the Lonefire, I probably would have gone Lonefire into Tomato and attacked over the Blizzard. I cuts off a lot of my aggressive options on my turn. Tomato can also, prevent him from losing the board presence, and he can follow up with Caius on the next turn by grabbing his second copy of Goblin Zombie. I think this play right here leaves him a little bit open to too much aggression. I can, normal summon Ashura, search a Bora, special that, synchro off into Bryonic, and then actually go pretty crazy because I'll have the value to pitch in my hand. So I think that this is a less good play than going for Lone Fire for Tomato. And then another reason is because Lone Fire and Tomato puts together 5 monsters for your Pot of Avarice. And then another reason too is that Lone Fire and Tomato plays around Colute by attacking into the Blizzard. Like if I Colute there, then he just grabs Gale, halves my monster or whatever. Like it's still fine. You can still grab the Goblin Zombie after the Tomato and then attack over the Bora. So I think it's a better play to go for the Lone Fire and the Tomato there. Plus Goblin Zombie's not really searching you anything that's getting you anywhere with this hand. Like this hand is not getting better. Whereas having the extra monster in play, provided your play goes through, off the Tomato running over the Blizzy, that's much better. You can also deduce that I don't really have another 4-star in my hands. Or I guess maybe. I don't know. You could deduce I maybe have another Blizzard because I sent it off of Armageddon Knight. So it's even more reason to run over the Blizzard and not the Bora, basically. In any case, I top deck, I believe, what was it, Phoenix Wing? I don't remember what it was. I think it was Phoenix Wing. I wrote it for Greffer, and on this turn I actually do have game. I'm able to brain control, synchro into Goyo Guardian. He searches Mizuki. I summon Dark Armed, I Greffer, send, and then I go for game. Unfortunately for us, he does have Battle Fader, but we have Wind Blast to stop his follow-up, so we're actually kind of chilling. Dark Arm's going to pop the Battle Fader main phase 2. Don't want to leave him with any tribute fodder for something like a Caius. He top decks Cyber Dragon, he special summons it. There's a couple different plays here. He could go Lone Fire into Tomato, Tomato Crash into one of my monsters, and then grab Plague Spreader and then Black Rose my field, which I think is probably the best play. However, he could also just sack for Caius to play around Icarus Attack and then target the Dark Arm Dragon, which I think is also an okay, serviceable play. If everything goes poorly, he can still Pot of Avarice and he can still make plays this turn. He'll still have a live return for the next turn. And he also alleviates a lot of the pressure on him if he does that. However, I think the best play is to go for the Lone Fire Crash upside play. It is a little weird to do that into a back row, and you do lose to every single back row by doing this, but it has a little bit more upside. You can always Pot of Avarice. He actually Avarices first. I don't know if I would Avarice first here, because if you draw into Plague Spreader, it's actually quite bad. Then you just don't have a play. Fortunately for him, he does not draw into Pot of Avarice. Or not Pot of Avarice, sorry. He does not draw into Plague Spreader, but he does draw into Typhoon. He's going to Typhoon my back row. I am going to be able to chain it. It is Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, and I am going to target the Mystic Tomato. A little bit of an interesting move to Typhoon the back row. You kind of have to hope that it's Deep Prison or Mirror Force for this to really work out. If it's Icarus Attack, it's very bad for you. It's just dead lost. Whereas, and Phoenix Wing is also pretty bad for you too. He's able to attack over the Greffer and not completely die this turn, but there's an interesting ruling thing that comes up that I want to talk about with you guys. So here I top deck Royal Oppression. I activate Dark Arm Dragon and I target Cyber Dragon. On resolution here, he should activate the return. The reason being is because if Dark Arm targets the return, then Dark Arm's Chain Link 1 and return is Chain Link 2. And this Night End Sorcerer says when this card is special summoned, you can target 2 monsters in the opponent's graveyard and banish them. So if this card is special summoned Chain Link 2 or higher, it actually misses the timing. Similar to Call of the Haunted on Armageddon Knight or Call of the Haunted on Stratos, this card will actually miss the timing. So since he does not activate it on the resolution, he waits to chain it to the Dark Arm Dragon effect. He does not get to banish 2 monsters because the Night End Sorcerer does miss the timing. So I'm able to banish my 2 monsters, pop both his cards, and attack him directly for game because he paid half his life points due to the return. He talks a little bit about another ruling where this can come up, which is basically if you have a Tomato and it's your opponent's turn and they summon a Recruiter and they crash into your Tomato, your Tomato is Chain Link 2. So if you special summon out Night End Sorcerer off of a Chain Link 2 or higher Tomato, the Night End Sorcerer will actually still miss timing as well there. So there are instances where it can miss timing in those cases. Game 2. Game 2, I boarded in my Dust Tornadoes, and I think that's it. Yep, there's the Dust Tornado. And he has drawn a lot of bricks, as well as a DD Crow. I think DD Crow is actually really bad against Blackwings, particularly if you're playing a combo strategy like he is. I think your goal with combo strategies is to recognize that you can go over the top of their monsters quite easily, and you can steal their monsters with Mark of the Rose. So something like DD Crow is not really adding to what your game plan is. If your game plan is to let them synchro with the Blizzies, let them pull out their big value synchro and then steal it with Mark of the Rose, then DD Crow doesn't really add up that well with these cards. I think you definitely want more engine cards or more ways to deal with back row. Those are the things that I would be citing in as a combo deck against Blackwings. It contributes more to your game plan. It contributes more to what you want to be doing in the matchup, more or less. He starts off with just set return, passing. I generally am not a big fan of setting return here, but because he has double DDR, the return's kind of superfluous, and if it baits the back row removal, he's probably pretty happy about that. I set just Dust Tornado and Wind Blast. The position I'm trying to initiate is that if this card is chainable, I want him to set one more back row. I'm going to Wind Blast, target the potentially chainable back row in the end phase. He will potentially chain it on my Dust Tornado, and then I will potentially be able to Dust Tornado his other card. The Wind Blast is going to be discarding Bora because we can get it back for free with Blizzy, and then we can have our not chainable back rows be, stuck down in a lower resource situation when it's less likely our opponent will have removal. They top deck Cyber Dragon, and he just passes again. I top deck Deep Prison. Again, I just want my 2 back row to be chainable, so I just pass again. Here he sets DDR, and now the position that I am waiting for has been initiated. So I go Phoenix Wing on the back row that's potentially chainable. It goes to the top of the deck, and then I Dust Tornado the other back row. On my turn, I'm looking to Blizzy and set my whole hand. Here I Blizzy. He does have the Crow to interact with it, but honestly, if this was something different, like a more active card, maybe like I'm not even sure what would really be in this spot that you could side in against Blackwings, but I think this is a little bit sus, basically. He crows the Bora, but I'm actually pretty happy about this trade because the Bora was just going to sit around in defense and probably get run over anyway. So, I mean, I'm cool if the Bora takes a real card out of the opponent's hand here. Like, that makes me very happy. I go ahead and set 4 cards and pass the turn. He's able to special Cyber Dragon, but we do have Royal Oppression, and that's going to be an absolute crush against him this game. Every Yu-Gi-Oh player all time hates Royal Oppression, and this is why. You try to do your unfair fun combos, and you just get blown out by Royal Oppression. I top deck Gale, I summon it, I just want to apply a little bit more pressure, get him low. Maybe later in the game I can close things out, get him below the oppression point basically. I attack with both, he drops to 2800. My game plan is being initiated. He top decks Brain Control, which is actually a really good draw here. I like not to Solemn this because I'm saving Solemn basically for anything that kills Royal Oppression. That's pretty much it. He sacks for Caius, and I'm like, that sucks. We lose our board, but I can at least clear this Caius with one of my battle traps. I make a little bit of a mistake here. I know his deck does play DDR, and I know his deck does play Return. So what I should have done here actually is use the Mirror Force. I also should have saved the Deep Prisons because they have more value being used on plant-type monsters like Mystic Tomato or Dandelion or whatever that's going to poke at my life total. It has a lot less application against Caius because I would want to banish a plant-type monster so they can't use Mark of the Rose, basically. And also, I don't want to switch on his Return and his DDR. So I make a little bit of a mistake using the Deep Prison here instead of the Mirror Force. Yes, the Mirror Force does have the upside of him attacking me with multiple monsters and running into it, but that situation is never happening in this game. He doesn't have any monsters to attack me with anyway, so saving the Mirror Force is just a little bit silly. I go ahead and set the Deep Prison in case he top decks Tomato. At this point, I've recognized my misplay, and I'm like, damn, that sucks. He top decks another Mark of the Rose, which is just really unfortunate. I top deck Shura, but instead of risking my only Blackwing monster into no back row, into 3 known back row, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna set Icarus and set up for maybe a 3-for-2 play with the Icarus. He has a little bit of a slow start, and I have oppression and a bunch of ways to defend my life total. So, not really getting too aggressive with the Shura, not like basically wasting my cards, like shutting off my Icarus by playing too aggressively into back row is the way I'm gonna be winning this game. On this turn, I can definitely summon the Shura because I have the Icarus. He says really showcasing our decks here, which is kind of funny. I don't know what I'm saying. It's pretty funny. We're not actually showcasing the decks very well. I'm just showcasing the power of Royal Oppression into decks that are trying to combo. Shura attacks for 18. He drops to 200, and this is a very unfortunate life total for his deck to be at because he can't crash his recruiters anymore. And even Mark of the Rose is a bit of a liability because it does give me my monsters back in the end step. He goes for DDR here. I pay 100 for oppression. He tries to dust, and here's where saving the Solemn comes into play. I save the Solemn for the out to the oppression, and that's just going to close things out for me. He Mark of the Roses. I chain Icarus attack. He chains return. Just deals me another 800. If he had another way to maybe clear these back row and attack me, that would have been huge, but instead he's just going to swing the Goblin Zombie into the Deep Prison, and I don't know if I top deck a monster. I think I just top deck a Space Typhoon. I said 2 and pass. He top decks DD Crow. Again, these DD Crows, not very good, especially in post-board situations. The Blackwing decks have a lot more back row. They have a lot more traps post board, so you definitely want to be playing to out the key traps and not necessarily the graveyard stuff. They don't do a lot of graveyard stuff, to be real. I top deck Dark Arm with 2 Darks engraved, which is kind of funny. He switches to DD Crow, he summons the Night End, and he attacks for 13. I actually take this damage. I think it's a little bit too hasty to use my Mirror Force. If I don't top deck a monster next turn and I didn't use my Mirror Force, then I will be happy that I saved it, basically. We do fall below the oppression line here, though, so if he has a way to special summon, I mean, he can get us. He can get us. He says that he should have used Plague and the DD Crow to try to attack for exactly 1800. I do top deck the monster, and I am able to win. He says, I had game, what if I had activated Plague, but I do reveal the Mirror Force and let him know that if he had tried to go for it, I would have Mirror Forced his 3 cards because I would have had to, more or less. Again, save your resources for the important things, stick to your game plan, make sure you're sideboarding accurately, and then I think it changes the outcome of things. I'm not sure if the outcome of this game would have changed too much. He bricked really fucking hard on like these DDRs in return. Maybe there's some consideration to siding down on DDR and return against Blackwings. In general, I side out cards that pay life points against Blackwings quite frequently because it's very easy to just get into a death zone. All right, next match. Next match is against Kensaku Rei. Oh, spoilers, a little bit of spoilers. Fast forward, we're going to fast forward. What was Kensaku Rei playing? I believe they're playing Quickdraw Amaryllis. Yep, that's the case. And they're playing a lot of weird tech. And by weird tech, I mean, generally speaking, bad tech. Our opening hand is fucking crazy. We go ahead and set up the Greffer Armdwing situation, and we set Deep Prison. Unfortunately, our fucking crazy opening hand is not that great because their hand is insane. This hand is really good. It's so insane that honestly, the Cactus Bouncer and the Evil Thorn could be actually real cards, and this would be like a hand you would stack. Like basically, if I could mark my sleeves and stack my deck, these 4 cards are like the 4 cards I would probably stack. He goes ahead and Typhoons our lone back row. He's able to quick draw Dandy and Lone Fire, and he makes, or I should say, they make a bit of a mistake here. I think this is a mistake. They Lone Fire off of a Dandy token. Generally speaking, against Blackwings or against Vayu, you either want to leave this Lone Fire in defense or you want to leave both tokens. Leaving a Lone Fire in attack is just sure food, and it's also more damage for us. So he doesn't know quite yet that we're playing not Vayu, we're playing Blackwings. So it is understandable that he leaves a Lone Fire in play, but if anything, you would want to leave the defense position one. So he goes ahead and makes Titanial, synchros into Drill Warrior. I understand the desire to get damage in, but it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it because the downside is so high. We go ahead and Collude over the Titanial. The Drill Warrior attacks the Dark Greffer, and we're going to lose that, unfortunately. And then he's going to pitch one of his 2 bricks to banish his Drill. On our turn, we top deck Blizzy, which could maybe come up for a lethal shot later on. I normal summon Shura. I go ahead and Shura over Lone Fire Blossom. I go ahead and make Vayu, and then I attack directly for 3100. Here's where I make the biggest mistake. Main phase 2, I elect to synchro into Armor Master. I'm like, you can't really get over an Armor Master with anything in his graveyard, right? If I make Catastor, it's actually just better. First off, because Catastor not only kills Drill Warrior, it kills whatever. It can force him to go for a passive line, which includes grabbing Dandelion back and pitching Dandelion to the Drill to banish it. In which case, I have a game shot using Blizzy through the tokens with Armdwing. So I actually make a really big mistake here. And people say Blackwings is Helmet, but it's actually a challenging deck to play because these lines are not obvious. I'm like, he can't get over Armor Master, right? Making Armor Master safe. It also guarantees my Armdwing hits the grave. It guarantees my Vayu hits the grave. It's pretty good. But actually making Catastor is much better. Not making Catastor means I also can't pressure him if he does play multiple copies of Titanial. Normally decks that play Evil Thorn are playing a heavy plant engine with like Super Solar Nutrient and other whack shit like that. So that's usually a pretty big sign he plays another high value Lone Fire target, and that's what he's going to get back on the next turn. So this is actually a pretty big mistake on my part, synchroing into the Armor Master and not into the Catastor, and it cost me this game. I straight up lose. Partially in due to the fact that he top decks Mirror Force. I still do have a game shot through Titanial, through whatever, because I can make Bryonic force the Titanial. I just needed him to not top deck specifically Mirror Force this turn. Which, of course, he did. So, I mean, I get punished for not making a more resilient play. We go ahead and take the 1200. They attack over the Shura. They would have attacked over the Armed Wing here, and the Catastrophe would have swung into the Mirror Force. But, at least, it's hard to say. It's hard to say if my play was accurate or not, but I think this play is much more committal. I go ahead and pick up a Rhoda, which is not complete brick here, but Greffer's already gone, so we can't do any crazy Greffer pitch Sirocco tricks. So we just Blizzy back the Blue Flame, and I just go for game shot. I'm like, he would have had the top deck Mirror Force this turn. If Titanium negates Bryonic, which is what's going to happen, then I can go for the Vayu banishing the Armed Wing and go for 5,000 direct damage. If it's just a spot removal, I'm putting him to 200, which is pretty scary place to be at against Blackwings. And then if not, then here we are. He does have Mirror Force, and we do lose. So a sequence of very powerful cards, the Lone Fire, the Quickdraw Dandy combo, and then the Typhoon, the Mirror Force, and having access to the second Titanial does cause us to fall into a losing position here. And then to add insult to injury, he is playing the third Titanial and is able to kill us on this turn. So that was a tough game. That was a tough game. Despite all the bricks, he manages to avoid them. Our opening hand this game is actually quite good. We have Shura, we have Wind Blast, which is a fantastic card, and we have lots of ways to pressure. So I just summon Shura and set Oppression. Everything this deck does that can get over a lone Shura involves Oppression or setting Raikou. So that's why I've done. He goes ahead and sets a monster here, and I'm like, okay, that could be a Raikou, that could be whatever. I top deck a second Royal Oppression, so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll have a shot. Their opening hand is actually quite terrible. The only piece of threat, basically, is Heavy Storm. We go ahead and just play all in, because if it's a Raikou, then it's best to get in the maximum amount of damage. I go ahead and have the Debris Dragon. They go ahead and Heavy Storm our 2 back row. I do chain Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, pitching Dark Greffer, targeting the Debris Dragon, because I'm afraid of him board nuking us, basically. If he has a Dandelion, he can normal summon it and board nuke us, so I do elect to Wind Blast the Debris Dragon. Of course, had I known his hand, that would have been a terrible play. I didn't need to do that at all. I could have just, killed him the next turn, but alas, I did not know his hand. He goes ahead and Hidden Amaryllis, mills the Debris Dragon that we put back on top, and searches Mark of the Rose, which is another brick in this hand. This hand is just dead. Normally Solemn Judgment, another sus card against Blackwings, because you go low, and they can pierce you very easily for game. In their deck, they have 3 Blizzies, they have 2 Boras, and they have the Whirlwinds to search them, so they have a lot of ways to find pierce damage in the middle to late game. I go ahead and top deck Kalut. Not the worst thing to have here. I attack with everything. Go ahead and put him into that danger zone life total, and I am going to set my Royal Oppression. So these types of decks, generally speaking, don't have a lot of outs to Royal Oppression. They usually just have Heavy Storm, Space Typhoon, Solemn Judgment, and then maybe some Phoenix Wings if they're playing it. However, based off his configuration in the last game, seeing the Cactus Bouncer and the Evil Thorns, I think he's had to make room for the fucking shitty text that he's added somehow. So he must have cut Phoenix Wings, is what I'm thinking, because those are usually the cards that get cut. Those or Raikous. And so he's able to find an 8-star for the trade-in, and then top decks into exactly everything he needs. He goes Quickdraw, pitch Dandy. I try to Royal Oppression the Quickdraw. He has Solemn Judgment for it, unfortunately. So we had our 2 Oppressions, and he had 2 of his maybe 3 outs. So that'll do it. That'll do it. He's able to make the Drill Warrior, but at this point in time, he's in that danger life total. The Solemn Judgment has put him low. Our 1 turn where we were able to attack has put him very low. At this point in time, I'm faced with a very difficult decision. I do know about Mark of the Rose. I do know about it. I do know that he has 2 other cards that he has not set thus far. So I'm thinking, Mark of the Rose is gonna happen. Main phase 2, it's gonna happen. He's gonna Drill Warrior attack the Gale. And here's where I got a little bit short-sighted. I'm thinking, oh, he's attacking the Gale. I shouldn't Kalut, because if I let the Gale stick around, if I Kalut and let the Gale stick around, he can Mark of the Rose with it and then Synchro main phase 2. What I should have thought, and this is a mistake, but what I should have thought is that he doesn't have another monster to Synchro with the Gale. Otherwise, he would have done Mark of the Rose main phase 1. He would have done this main phase 1, basically. So I think I make a mistake here by holding this Kalut. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not sure exactly how it would have ended up for me. He pitches the Burial, so I know one of his last 2 cards is Mark of the Rose. And his other card that he didn't set alongside Solemn Judgment, so it had to be the draw for turn. Whatever he drew for turn had to be that card that he's setting there. Either that or he's setting the Mark of the Rose as a bluff. So it's a 50-50. I do know about the Mark of the Rose. I do top deck D Prison, which is a really good draw. It's going to be able to answer the Drill Warrior when it comes down. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just going to go for game. I attack the token, and he fucking top deck Mirror Force 2 games in a row for my game shot. So here we are. But that token is still in play. So I still have quite a few draw steps. I'm only at 5,900. I do have a D Prison to protect my life total. I have this Kalut. He's at 1,550. I have quite a few draw steps to actually find a Piercer if he doesn't convert off that token. So I set the D Prison. He brings back Drill Warrior, adds back Quickdraw Synchron, creates new tokens, which is actually going to give us more outlets to pierce over if we're able to top deck a Piercer. I deprison the Drill Warrior because I don't want him to be able to convert this dead Mark of the Rose into a live threat, like a Titanial, which would be very dangerous. Instead of deprisoning the monster that's slightly stronger, I don't think the attack points actually matter as much as him being able to convert dead draws. He hits for 25. We top deck Vayu, which is a shit top deck because we have no Sirocco. We were forced to pitch the Grepher early on to our Wind Blast, and it's just awkward. It's just an awkward draw here. I do set it to try and survive a turn. He does find Evil Thorn. He doesn't want to go for it because if he has that in attack position, then he's also risking some other things killing him. He just attacks over the Vayu with the Turbo Warrior. And we still have 3 Blizzardies. We still have 2 Boras left in our deck that we can top deck that just immediately win us the game. And we had 1 top deck already to try and find them. Second top deck, we find Dark Armed with 5 monsters in our grave. So there's that. That's kind of the risk of Dark Armed in this list in particular, is you don't have a lot of grave control past turn 10. So here we are. He top decks Foolish Burial, so that's two top decks we've now missed. He goes ahead and attacks, and we're getting a 3rd top deck towards Blizzy or Bora. It's a 1 in 6 chance to draw one of them, a little bit more than a 1 in 6 chance to draw one of them, but we've had 3 repeats at it. So it's like a 50-ish, I don't know exactly statistics, but it's a pretty high % chance. Here he's saying, okay, I'm going to kill you next turn unless you do something. He brings back the Amaryllis in defense position in the M phase. I top deck Rhoda, and that's not going to do it, unfortunately. Which is kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I think having 3 turns to top deck a Piercer and not hitting after getting top decked on, with some very powerful limited cards, the Heavy Storm, the Mirror Force, the Judgment, and then having Quickdraw Dandy twice alongside the trade-in with one of his few targets on the right turn that it mattered. It was a difficult game. I think I made some questionable decisions. Not colluding the Drill Warrior is definitely a mistake. And I think there's a few other things, but had I colluded the Drill Warrior, I would have just swung all my monsters into Mirror Force anyway. So I don't know if it really would have changed the outcome of this game that much. He just wouldn't have had that drill to loop back the advantage, and maybe our top decks would have been a little bit kinder to us. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure how it would have played out. I'm not sure if it would have affected the game as a win or a loss, but as it stands now, we know about the Mark of the Rose, so we're dead on board, unfortunately. But we have to make this play in order to continue on. And we collude over the Turbo Warrior. He has Mark of the Rose and wins the game. Tough 0-2 loss with Blackwings towards against this deck that I think is actually probably a favorable matchup for Blackwings. I think we kind of got sacked. He had a lot of power cards. We had not the right answers lining up very well. And then we also didn't really have our power cards like Black Whirlwind or Dark Armed at the right time. So kind of tough. Sometimes you just got to hold that. I think my play both games was a little bit sloppy, but either way, Mirror Force was gonna clip us. The next match is a match against Ruiner. I just want to talk about a few things in this match. I'm gonna try to speed through this one pretty quickly. I don't think this match is as good of a match because I'm pretty sure about halfway through that my opponent's actually a newer player. But there are a few things I do want to talk about in this match that came up that are things that maybe you guys will be interested in. He doesn't set the Raikou on turn 1. Definitely want to set the Raikou on turn 1 here. Definitely want that to be in play. There's no reason not to. Just clear one of the back rows, clear the Shura, at least start setting up for something to actually happen in this game. He top decks Avarice. Now he sets the Dandelion, which is a terrible thing to set into Shura because you're just giving me free value, basically. Go ahead and grab the Vayu. Not the best play from the opponent, but he is a little bit newer, so take everything with a grain of salt. Here in the end phase, I missed something. And this is something I wanted to point out. I'm including this in the video because I do watch back my own videos when I'm preparing for tournament testing, and I do reflect on my own play. I let him scapegoat here. I got to be more aware of this. The Dandelion did activate this turn. He did special summon monsters this turn, so he can't actually legally activate Scapegoat this turn. That's something I'm just keeping in mind. I'm not as used to playing against Scapegoat as I used to be when I played a lot more Goat format. So here I do go for the Android. I want to gain life points to offset the oppression activations more or less instead of going for Catastor. Catastor can also randomly lose to like main deck Cyber Dragon, that kind of shit. He goes for Scapegoat. I do oppression it. I don't catch that he can't actually legally activate it this turn, but that's on me. That's on me. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the game just like falls out of favor for him slowly. He makes a weird play with the Book of Moon that leads me to believe that he's definitely inexperienced. He books the Shura, and then I attack over the Raikou, and then the Raikou pops the Shura. Definitely with this hand, you want to pop the Royal Oppression. Debris Dragon can clear the rest, provided it resolves. So, yeah, there's that. He top decks Space Typhoon, goes for the Debris. I try to Oppression that. He Space Typhoons the Royal Oppression, and then he brings back Dandelion in defense, but it should be an attack. He tries to Synchro into Stardust, but we have the second Oppression for this. And this is the second thing I wanted to make a mental note of. I got to check and see if I can actually do this. I believe I can Royal Oppression both the Stardust and the Dandy, but I'm not sure if I can. I'm actually not sure if I can, because I think I have to flip Royal Oppression, use it. I'm not sure. I think I can. Because I think the Stardust comes out, and then we Royal Oppression, and then the Dandy activates in a separate chain, and then we can Royal Oppression that. So I'm pretty sure I can, but it's something I need to double check. These are a few like weird little ruling things that are coming up that I'm not the most certain of. He goes ahead and Avarices here. I don't think he finds anything relevant. I think he just kind of dies. Yeah, he just finds another Avarice, and then we have lethal because of the Grepher play. Royal Oppression, again, being the most fun card in the format. As you can see, just completely shutting down the quick draw strategy. And that's why in my matchup chart, I think this matchup is very favored for Blackwings. You have Royal Oppression. Most of their strategy needs a special summon. You kind of just beat them. It's just you have the main deck Floodgate, which destroys their strategy. So there's that. Especially if they're not accurately using their Raikous like he should have been that game. Game 2 is a little bit more interesting. Again, like I said, he's pretty inexperienced, so he doesn't really fully understand the line here. But he searches the first shell. He should summon the shell, and he should synchro into Drill, and then he should search the third shell and pitch it to Drill, basically. But he does not do that, and he just sets Book of Moon. Also, if you pitch it to Drill, you get to set Torrential Tribute, which is very nice. You want to have that early on. Our opening hand's actually very good. Because he left the Drill in play, we're able to just Gale, attack over it. He makes another mistake here. He activates Book of Moon, but he targets his own Drill Warrior instead of the Gale. So I'm actually able to get over the Drill Warrior with Kalut, get a nice 2-for-1 there with my Kalut, and then I'm able to set Mirror Force and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast and just have a really good position. He foolishes Dandelions. Again, a little bit inexperienced. He tries to tribute the Dandy token to summon Quickdraw, which you can't do. You cannot tribute summon Dandy tokens, or tribute summon using Dandy tokens the turn they are summoned. And then he makes another mistake. He tries to pitch Torrential for Quickdraw Synchron. It can be confusing because Drill Warrior can pitch any card, but Quickdraw Synchron has to pitch a monster. So you can't pitch Torrential Tribute here to summon Quickdraw at all. And he's forced to just set a card and pass. We don't play further into Torrential because now we know about it, which is a little bit awkward. He goes ahead and finds Caius. He sacks, targets the Gale. I don't do anything about this Caius because I want to summon Shura and force his Torrential to 2-for-1 himself. He goes ahead and activates the shell for the third time. This should have been done way earlier, but that's the case. He also should have Avarice on the previous turn, but these are all things like if you're an inexperienced player, you get used to it after practicing a little bit. So I completely understand why he's where he's at, basically. I go ahead and find Sirocco. Normal summon the Shura. He can't Torrential because he didn't set it. He set a bluff again. I just attack over with Kalut. I'm playing around Torrential anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. I get a special summon of Vayu. I get to attack directly, and then I actually get to deck dev off of the pumped up Shura here for at least 3 cards, which is a very broken deck dev, and this is why deck dev is disgusting. This is why a lot of people hate deck dev. He reveals the Decree, and then later on in the game, I am able to force this Decree basically to lock out his own Torrential and win. I'm going to let it fast forward a little bit. I think in general this matchup, it's very good for Blackwings because they can get a lot of damage out of their monsters. You're essentially playing a burn deck against the Blaze Accelerator, and the shells are also burning them at the same time, so they're just bleeding life points more or less. That's pretty much it. he finds Charge of the Light Brigade, and this is perfect for us. He's going to charge for Raikou. He's going to set it. We're going to normal summon Sirocco. He's not going to Torrential, and then we're going to knock the Raikou and then have the winning position, more or less. Goes ahead and sets that on our turn. This is why you summon monsters before activating Knock. It plays around Torrential, plays around Bottomless, that kind of thing. Now your opponent doesn't have a window to use their removal spell on your monster that they probably would have liked to use it on. We go ahead and knock the Raikou. We don't play any, so we shuffle our deck. We attack for 2k. And then he top decks Caius. We attack again for 2k. He top decks Book of Moon, sets that, passes the turn. We top deck Icarus attack, and now we're able to initiate the situation where our Sirocco will be able to be lethal. Or not our Sirocco, our Bora. We set the Icarus attack. He top decks a card. He sets it. So from our position, we actually want to Icarus attack, target 2 of the set cards. If we hit the Torrential, we can continue to, or we can just, if we don't hit the Torrential, like let's say we target, sorry, not if we don't hit the Torrential. If we do hit the Torrential and the new one, let's say that this card is the Torrential, right? This card next to the Blaze and the new one, let's say we hit those 2 cards and he chains Decree and that's the third one. We can chain Wind Blast on the Decree and it would clear all 3 back row. However, if we hit the Decree and the new one, then he chains Decree. We actually target the new set with the Wind Blast because the Decree will lock out the Torrential. So this is a guaranteed game shot basically. I didn't really articulate that as cleanly as I have it going in my brain right now, but you guys get the idea. Now you see the position. Royal Decree is actually locking out the Torrential. We made sure and got rid of the last back row in case it was his third Book of Moon, and then we're able to attack for game. So a few things from the opponent. Definitely don't side in Blackwings against Blackwings DD Crow. I don't know why people keep doing this against me. They keep making this mistake. This is now the 3rd game that someone decided in DD Crow against Blackwings. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Again, a few other things from the other opponent. Next game, I don't know if I'm going to show you this one, but basically it was just another game where Royal Oppression beat Beast Beats because he was doing some Gear Town stuff. And then the last game I want to show you guys is actually Blackwings versus Fairies. This is a matchup that I think is unwinnable for Blackwings. Pretty much. I don't know how you're ever supposed to win this matchup. It's so fucking hard. It's like actually fucking impossible. They just have so much ways to beat what it is you're doing, basically. Our opening hand's fantastic. Like, this is a great opening hand. I'm able to summon Shura. I have Wind Blast. Like, this is all just excellent. I have lots of pressure. I have ways to, maybe find an Armageddonite, set up a Vayu. This is just a great place to be in, and they just have some standard fairy draw. This isn't even like an exceptional draw by any means. He elects not to Heavy Storm before setting 2 cards here. I think this is interesting. He's probably tempting an Icarus attack and trying to proc his own Gores and save the Heavy Storm for when we have more back row. I think that's not the worst. I think it's not the worst to try and tempt an Icarus attack. I think it's fine. And then if we don't have Icarus attack, your position's actually pretty good. So it's not a terrible opening from the opponent this game. We go ahead and top deck Blizzy, which is one of the best top decks. It means we can Wind Blast their back row for free, more or less. Bring back the Bora, special our other Bora, and this is huge damage. If this isn't a Raikou, we're going to put them in a position where they need to do something this turn or they die. And they're locked under Wind Blast. We go ahead and attack the Raikou. The Raikou pops the Shura, so unfortunately it was something that could clear the Shura and deny us our effect, our special summon effect. Mills Book of Moon, Mirror Force. I still don't know what they're on at this point. So I'm like, okay, I'll attack for 13 and I'll attack for 17. Deal my 3,000. And he's going to drop Gores here, which is really ugly. Really ugly Gores. I elect to go into Armedwing. And the reason being is I still don't know what he's playing against. And Armedwing with its effect is actually pretty good against Dandy decks, if that's what he's playing. It's also pretty good against this situation because I have a Kalut to back it up. If it ever dies, I can Rhoda for Armageddonite. Armageddonite can send Vayu, and then I can make an Armor Master with it, so it turns my Rhoda on as well. So I like to go for Armedwing instead of like Bryonic or something here. I think this is the correct play. I could be wrong. It's also, I do leave the Bora in attack position because having the defense position one means the token can run it over and he can get multiple places for value. It is still possible he is on Fairies here. He lets the token crash, so I'm like, okay, here I'm going to Kalut. I'm going to Kalut the Gores, but he has Herald. And this is exactly what I talked about in my most recent Fairy video. There's nothing you can do. There is no way to play around this card. Eventually, it's going to get you. Eventually, it's going to fuck you over. Eventually, you're just going to run into it, and there's nothing you can do. There's no way I could have played around Herald there. I didn't even know he was even playing that card. The fuck am I supposed to do? I can't predict it. I'm just going to get 2 for 1, or 2 for 2, plus take a bunch of damage, and he's going to set his Typhoon and pass. We're going to have to Rhoda for Armageddon Knights and send the Vayu and just hope he doesn't top deck anything too crazy. But he top decks additional pressure because the deck is very consistent and hits the pressure as consistently as possible. And he also hits a monster because, again, the deck is very consistent. It hits the cards you need to hit. So Gors runs over the Armageddon Knight, and Dialk attacks directly for 1800. We top deck Mind Control, and the game just immediately fucking ends because we make Armor Master, but Armor Master is not going to be good enough. It still doesn't get over the Gors that he correctly defended with his Herald there, and he has Soul of Purity and Light for additional pressure, and to add insult to injury, he top decks DD Warrior Lady, which is a guaranteed game shot because it allows him to play through Kalut, and he makes the correct play by attacking with the Warrior Lady into the Armor Master. So that was a good game. That was a good game. Well played from the opponent. Absolutely dismantled us. Kind of shows exactly why Fairies destroys Blackwings, even in game 1. Now, game 2 is actually a really interesting one. I want to talk about this one a lot. My opponent plays this game much worse than he played game 1. And while we did draw our 2 very powerful sideboard cards, both of these cards should solo the Fairy deck in theory. We actually would have lost this game if he had played it a little bit tighter. So I go ahead and set my 2 cards. I set Light Mirror and Phoenix Wing. The reason I set Light Mirror is because if he leads on Dialk, I would like to negate that. Also, I would like to flip this face up if he just sets a monster, so my Kalut can run over it. He goes ahead and summons Honest. This is a catastrophic misplay. This costs him the whole fucking game. Just don't summon Honest here. Literally just don't summon Honest here and you win the game. On the spot. I can never win. Summon Shining Angel. What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst that could happen to a Shining Angel? It gets deprisoned. That is the worst thing that could happen to this Shining Angel. In the case of that, you have Dialk to loop it back, and you're happy. You're actually very happy if this gets deprisoned because it turns on your whole hand. Summoning Honest, what's the worst that could happen? Fucking Light Mirror, bro. And now you have no pressure. All your hand is weak. Now you have no defense. Your bottomless trap hole is kind of sus. In general, I think siding out Brain Control against Blackwings is always correct. It's going to turn into a life point race a large percentage of the time, and this card's not the best. It can be okay, but it very rarely is. I generally side this out when I'm playing against Blackwings as Fairy. Sometimes I leave it in, sometimes I don't. It just depends. It depends. But I think that's one of the questionable cards in his hand. In general, though, what he does next is he sets it, which he shouldn't do. He shouldn't do that. Definitely don't summon Honest here. You play right into Light Mirror, which I can guarantee you every Blackwing deck has game 2 and 3. And you don't have an out to it, so this was just stupid. At least if you have Angel in play, you dealt the 14. You're not setting yourself back. Like, even if the Honest resolves here, you're setting yourself back a normal summon, which is terrible. It's super, super bad. I think this is a very bad play. I think just getting the Shining Angel in play is better. Yes, if I summon Sirocco and I have DDV, you get fucked. Yes, but you're more likely to get fucked by Light Mirror here. So I think that this is not the best play. This is not the best play. The Honest stays in play, sets the Bottomless, and then he also sets the Brain Control. I don't think he should have done this. I think he should have just kept that in hand. I go ahead and summon the Kalut, gets under the Bottomless. I just want to clear the Honest straight up while it's still in attack position. That's why I don't summon the Grepher here. I also do want to get my Icarus attack live. I run over the Honest, and then I set Icarus, and I set Deck Devastation Virus, because I want Deck Dev to be live in the case that I top deck the whatever next turn. He summons Kaiku, which is actually would have been really insane. If he had summoned this even turn 1, it would have been really insane. I would have been fucked if this hit play turn 1. Like, I would have been hit with it at least twice. Yeah, and I'm forced to Icarus to clear this, more or less. Clears the Brain Control that he set as a bluff. He goes ahead and sets Mirror Force. Again, I don't love this. You're just giving me an opportunity to Icarus 2 for 2 into the Bottomless. You can just sit on the Bottomless and be fine. At this point in time, I just set Icarus and pass. He finally summons the Shining Angel, which I probably would have summoned turn 1, most likely, and attacks for 14. Deals some chip damage. I top deck Mind Control. Yet another fucking shitty card. And as you can see, Deck Dev and Light Mirror don't win a game on its own. They don't. If the Fairy player has enough monster removal, they will beat you to death with their stupid little limp beat sticks that are negated. And you can do nothing about it if you just run out of monsters. Deck Dev and Light Mirror, they both have downsides in that they don't proactively deal with threats. You need additional resources in order to make them live. And in this instance, I just don't have them. So I'm forced to set the Grepher. Here, he top decks Cyber Dragon, attacks into the Grepher, takes 200. and I top deck Deep Prison, so I just pass the turn. He goes ahead and tribute summons the Cyber Dragon to try and run over the Greffer. Makes sense. The Shining Angels, you know, it's pretty dead here. It's not really getting you that much value. He could have probably also just like summoned something else too if he wanted to. And then another mistake here is having DD Crow in post board. DD Crow, yeah, it can hit a value, but that's very unlikely. And also on top of that, it's really bad post deck dev. So if you draw this post deck dev, you're just going to be pissed off that you added more deck dev targets into your deck. It's also really bad against the post-board game plan of just Light Mirror beating your face in. That's pretty much it. I think this card is very bad against Blackwings, and part of the reason why the hybrid decks are so good is because it baits people into siding in DD Crows, and they're just fucking terrible against this deck. He attacks the Dark Greffer. I am forced to Windblast. I really need to top deck a Vayu or a Sirocco. I pitch Heavy Storm because I'm not winning by killing my own Light Mirror, so I just get rid of that shit. It's pretty much dead here anyway. I top deck another Light Mirror, and I'm like, fuck me, dude. Can I just get a real card? Thankfully, I do have a Deep Prison to protect me from that Cyber Dragon that I know is coming next turn. He Mirror Forces the Greffer here. And this is actually, in my opinion, a very bad play. Yes, the Greffer does represent maybe top decking a Sirocco and having some activity later on. But you can also pretty much guaranteedly clear it with your Cyber Dragon on the next turn. While he doesn't know that I have Deep Prison in my hand, he knows that my best answer to Cyber Dragon was to Windblast it, which means I didn't have a Bottomless, I didn't have a Deep Prison, I didn't have a Mirror Force in these two set cards. For him, it is much better to just let this happen, top deck the Cyber Dragon, keep the Cyber Dragon live, special summon that, normal summon another monster, and then start applying some insane pressure. Attack over the Greffer that way. Even though you are going to play into my Deep Prison then, you'll still have the Mirror Force, and potentially, even on my turn, I do top deck that Sirocco, or I do top deck that Vayu. I do pitch that, and then I go 2 for 1 into your Mirror Force because I don't predict you to have it because you held it the first time I attacked the Greffer. So this is definitely a misplay using this Mirror Force here. And then I think this is an additional misplay, summoning this Alchemist and attacking. You're basically saying, I don't care about my Alchemist. I'd rather just turn it into a 1300 point burn spell. I think that this is a misplay. I think you just hold your cards here. I normal summon Gil. I'm able to attack over the Alchemist. Had I drawn Ashura here, he would have gotten big punished. Not too punished because again, he has the Bottomless, but punished to a degree, right? Here he special summons the Cyber Dragon. I do have the Deep Prison for it, so I go ahead and clip that. He should have actually probably summoned the Warrior Lady too to try to get over the Gale, in my opinion. He also top decks Trap Dust Shoot. In this matchup, you always side out Trap Dust Shoot going second. It is never live. And even if it is live, it's not taking anything you care about, which is Light Mirror or what's the other card? Deck Dev. So yeah, this sideboarding from the opponent, very messy. Brain Control, DD Crow, Trap Dust Shoot, not the best. I do like bringing in the Kaiku. I think that that's a good play. I do like bringing in the Cyber Dragon. I think that that's good. But I think leaving in Dust Shoot, leaving in, you know, some of these other cards is maybe questionable. Passes the turn. Here I'm able to Mind Control the DD Warrior Lady, flip summon that, and here he doesn't Bottomless. I understand not wanting the Bottomless here, but you do give me a chance to use Deck Dev. So I think it's hard to say. It's hard to say if you Bottomless here. I would have thought very hard about using Bottomless here. I probably would have done it. I probably would have Bottomless the DD Warrior Lady just to play around Deck Dev. But he doesn't do it. So I special summon Armor Master, and then I'm able to tribute that to Deck Dev. So Chainlink 1 Bottomless, Chainlink 2 Deck Dev, tribute Armor Master for cost, and then Chainlink 3, he likes to activate this Crow. He says later after the game he didn't know he could target the Armor Master, but you definitely can. Otherwise, actually, I don't think it's even right to use the Crow. If you can't target the Armor Master, then it's probably best to just let the Crow go to the graveyard and leave me at 4 darks, which means I can't Dark Arm Dragon you. I think that's the best play. But in this instance, the actual best play is probably to DD Crow target the Armor Master. The reason it works is because Bottomless Trap Hole's Chainlink 1, Deck Devastation's Chainlink 2, I have to tribute for cost to even activate Deck Dev. So while the chain is still open, Armor Master's already in the grave. So you can DD Crow target Armor Master here, which was his point of confusion. He chains it, targets Gale. We're able to summon the Vayu and then attack for 800. And then we pass. Don't want to set this into a Heavy Storm. He top decks Heavy Storm, and this is actually a misplay too. Another misplay from him is using the Heavy Storm at all here. Don't do it. Don't play it. You basically say for the rest of the game, I can't play back row while this Heavy Storm is here. And then you're also basically saying that you can force through at least one light effect at one point in a later turn. So using the Heavy Storm now is very bad. is very, very bad. It means now I can set any back row I draw. I'm pretty much playing without the restriction of potentially getting nuked by Heavy Storm. And then on top of that, he's not going to get a turn where maybe he top decks a Fairy, maybe top decks a Christia. He's able to resolve a Christia effect through everything because of the Heavy Storm. So this is actually a really bad misplay in general. I think it's pretty bad to use Heavy Storm in this instance. We top deck Brain Control. We go ahead and set the Light Mirror and pass. He top decks Thunder King. He doesn't attack here, and part of it, I think, is maybe he's thinking about Kaloop, maybe he's thinking about Deep Prison, or maybe he's not even scared of those cards, and maybe he just doesn't want to give me Silverwind. I sort of try to get an idea of what's going on in his head by normal summoning this Bora. I want to see if he's actually afraid of Deep Prison or Kaloot, or just afraid of the Silverwind. Turns out, he reveals the Dust Tornado for the draw. Turns out he was just afraid of the Silverwind, so he goes ahead and attacks over the Bora, which is kind of shitty for us. We probably should have crashed the Vayu and just made Silverwind last turn, but he doesn't set the Dust Tornado. Another misplay. I think you definitely set the Dust Tornado here. You need to be able to protect your Thunder King resolving through like a Light Mirror, basically. So if I summon a Blizzy here and I Synchro and he goes for Thunder King and I chain Light Mirror, you would have really liked to have that Dust Tornado set, more or less. I go ahead and attack, crash, make Silverwinds. I do this now because he has no back row, so I want to do this before he has potentially a Bottomless Trap Hole set or a Torrential Tribute set. Both those cards are still not gone. And then I pass the turn. He top decks Book of Moon and hastily activates his own Silverwind before realizing the Silverwind actually has 2,000 defense. He can't actually get over it. On the next turn, we're able to top deck a monster and Brain Control his card for game. We know about the Dust Tornado, so that's going to be game 2. This game would have gone way differently had he played it like better, honestly. Had he just played this game better, it would have been a totally different game. We're dying here at 2100. He got in a few chip shots that maybe added up poorly for him. He didn't bottomless the DD Warrior Lady. He gave himself an opportunity to get deck devved. It's just he sided weird. I think this game, it's a real testament to a lot of the times Fairies is not losing to these insane sideboard cards that are very good against it. It's just losing to playing a little tighter, more or less. And then game 3, dude, Fairies is the best deck. I don't even know how to say it. It's just so good. Like, we have a decent hand. Like, this hand is good against 99% of the metagame. Like, this hand would have won a game against a lot of the metagame. He just has Raikou Dust, Double Honest, which is really fucking good. I lead on Cyber Dragon. I probably should have led on Sirocco. It's a little bit better, but I wanted to maybe have a chance to hang on to these cards. I could have led on Sirocco here to turn on my Icarus attack. I'm not sure it was correct. I didn't want to play it into Bottomless Trap Hole quite yet. I wanted to have Icarus attack set first. I go ahead and attack into the Raikou. He pops the Cyber Dragon with the Raikou. And we do lose our Cyber Dragon, which sucks. Now, main phase 2, I have some decisions to make. I just set the Icarus. I don't Typhoon here. I probably should have Typhooned here. If the game gets too simplified, it's pretty bad for me, generally speaking, but the game's going to get simplified no matter what because I have Phoenix Wing, I have Icarus, so I probably should have Typhooned the back row, realistically, before setting my Icarus. Unfortunately, we do get dusted, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway. He did have Heavy Storm regardless, so it doesn't really fucking matter. Top deck's Raikou. Could have even set that into the back row or whatever, but yeah, Shining Angel's going to attack, and this is an FTK versus Blackwings. You just can't do anything. Like, there's literally nothing you can do. I pick up Solemn Judgment. These are all good cards in my hand. They just don't do anything to Shining Angel. I summon Sirocco. I attack Shining Angel. He uses Honest. He didn't even have to, but he did. I go ahead and set a couple back row. My game plan now is to just Wind Blast the Shining Angel and then Solemn it on the way back, which is going to be a really weird 2-for-1 against Shining Angel. He has Heavy Storm, getting another 2-for-1 on us. We are forced to Wind Blast the Shining Angel because that's our only way to win. We lose our Typhoon, which sucks. And he is playing 7 Tools of the Bandit, which is a tech I normally don't like in this deck. And I'll go into a little bit about why I don't like it here in a second. Goes ahead and summons the Shining Angel. I'm forced to Solemn. He has the 7 Tools and is able to negate that. But let's talk about this, right? This is like the best case scenario for 7 Tools. It's negating a Solemn Judgment. That's the best case. I guess negating deck dev is also very good too. Generally speaking, that's okay. But you have to pay 1,000 life points. And you're really only bringing this in those matchups. I don't know if it's that much better than just another Dust Tornado or a Trap Stun. In a lot of cases, Trap Stun is just better because you can cut off multiple back rows and then do what you need to do. But I don't know. Also, Trapstone doesn't cost you life points. There's some back and forth on these. Generally speaking, I err on the side of just having the max copies of Dust Tornado instead of playing 7 tools. But it does work out well for him right here in this instance. This is like best case scenario for 7 tools. We top deck Bora, but we know about nothing. We know about the second Honest. Do we know about the second Honest? How did we know about the second Honest? I don't remember how we knew about it. Did we dust shoot him or something? I don't fucking remember. I'm forced to set this because I can't attack this because then he just gets Honest and kills me. But yeah, I mean, that's the game, pretty much. Which lose to Shining Angel. You can't beat it with Blackwings. It's like a fucking FTK. There's no way out. If I had drawn Blizzy, maybe, but he had Herald for Catastrophe anyway, so it didn't matter. Matchup's unwinnable. I don't think Blackwings is good. The more people that play Fairies, I don't think Blackwings is going to be a good deck. It's just too hard to beat this deck consistently. Even game 2, when I had all my hate, I had to rely on him misplaying like 7 times to even get a chance. So, am I going to play Blackwings in the tournament? Probably not. Probably not. It's one of those decks where I think I have to play almost as perfectly as I have to play with Fairies to even do well with it. And then on top of that, I have to dodge Fairies, which I predict is going to be more popular simply because of the videos I've made, like if we're being realistic. So I don't love that. The few changes I would make moving forward, I did mention that I wanted to make some changes, is that these cards right here, Armageddon Knight, Greffer, and Rhoda, and the 2 values, these 5 cards, I want to be able to modulate them out of my deck, if possible, like more consistently. It is very awkward that I have to leave these in my deck a lot of times in matchups where I would prefer not to. I think being able to modulate these out of my deck and have a sideboard that kind of works well with that would be nice. I think something I'm considering right now is cutting 1 Deck Dev, 1 Light Mirror, the Mind Crush, as well as the Starlight Road from my sideboard. I'm going to cut these 4 cards. I'm going to do it right now before I forget. And then I was thinking of just adding Dimensional Prison number 3. I think this card's very good. I was thinking of maybe adding some Kaikus. I think this card is very good. Maybe just 1. Who knows? And then I was also thinking of adding Smashing Ground. 1 copy of that. Because this gives you outs to Shining Angel, which is a fucking problem. Maybe even 2 copies of it. And just playing something like this in my sideboard. This just means that post board I have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of spot removal that I can side into. And I can side out of this more like incoherent like combo stuff in decks that are going to side in a lot of back row against me. Or against decks that are going to side in a lot of back row against me. Because I don't think that these do particularly well against the mirror. I think in the mirror you'd rather have the spot removal and you'd rather have the Kaiku as well. So this is probably the change I'm going to be making moving forward, considering the metagame is like largely going to be Diva X, Blackwings, probably a lot of the telekinetic deck that I covered yesterday, and then Fairies. I assume those are going to be the top 4 decks going into this tournament. So considering that, I think this is how my sideboard wants to look. I think I just want to max out on the spot removal and have access to Kaiku somewhere in the 55. In any case, hope you guys like the intro. Hope you guys like this video. Hope you guys like the matches and the decks that I covered at the beginning. Let me know what you guys think of this formula. Let me know what you guys think of all this. This is kind of experimental for me. And I'll be back tomorrow with a beginner's guide to Edison format, telling you everything you need to know to get started playing this. I'll see you guys in the future. E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Signing off. Peace.